Rajim, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, Assalamu alaikum, Jiayanu, Pakhaira Gale, Ni Hao, Chunashumme, Washmale, Ohio Gonzaimas, Guten Morgen, Ola, Boyo, Privyet, Kaifahal, Haleshuman Chatore, Ahlan Wasal, Marhaba, Buna, Mucho, Gracias, Swabio, Bali Kareaya, Hoj Galden, and Ayasayo, Kuyamora, Chivato, Chihajot, Kalimera, Kairutan, and a very warm welcome to everybody who's tuned into PTV World and watching World this morning. Alongside my very well-learned colleague who happens to be Ms. Haja Satti. I happen to be Shahzad Hassan Khan, and we hope and pray that everybody out there is doing wonderfully well and that you're ready to kickstart your day. But over here in Isambah, ladies and gentlemen, there's a light drizzle outside, and if you need to be on time, please make sure that you leave your place on time as well, because it's a little rushy these days. Nah, Haja, how are you feeling today?
That's very true. Thank you so much, Jazakallah Khair. And Walaikum Assalam for introducing me. Thank you so much, Azad. And we are living in Islamabad, and certainly we were having this conversation before the red light of this camera went on that weather has certainly turned very pleasant, and Islamabad is every other day offering us some very beautiful sights of the rainbows coming out, right? And this is how we enjoy the changing seasonalities of the nature, that too residing in Islamabad. But having said so, Shahzad, since we've seen that there was a summer vacation times, the schools are opening, so are the universities. So a lot of kids, a lot of students, they are actually they're wondering or they want to do the internships, right? Yep. So internship is a pathway, a career program where you can exercise your mental faculties, where you can polish yourself, where you can polish your skills, and you can make your way towards the market. And I think those kids who are street smart, they're very successful in their careers as compared to those who are very bookwormish sort of a person. This is my own opinion. I mean, anyone can
I second that opinion, by the way.
Yes, because we've seen that, right? It is coming from the experience. But when we talk about the internship, that is why we feel it's very much important. And I think paid internships are the cherry on the top, because nowadays people don't offer the paid internship, right? So mostly they are using the free labor, and then in exchange for that, what do you call it?
So here's the so Haja, here's the good news. Imagine, just look at this, and this is something that we all were waiting for.
Punjab's Chief Minister Maryam Shehbaz Sharif has launched the Chief Minister Internship Program for the bright future of the youth. Youth aged between 18 to 25 years can register for the internship program at www.cmip.punjab.gp.pk, and the selected interns will get replacement opportunities in the prominent private sector institutions.
And in a statement, Haja, the Chief Minister said 6,000 internships spanning over 6 months duration will be offered in phase 1. And the interns will receive a monthly stipend of 25,000 rupees during their internship period. She said preference will be given to graduates who have completed their degrees in the last 2 years. Now, there are two questions only. Now, imagine, obviously, first of all, this initiative of the Chief Minister of Punjab is one that we really need to applaud. But on the other hand, what I would love to talk about is, the culture of internship over here. Now, imagine that once you've completed your 6 semesters in your I think it's a graduation degree, what the university asks you is that you need to go and do your internship.
It's a compulsory thing.
Yeah, and what people do is that they would go for internship, either they will call somebody, their chachu, mamu, dada, or, somewhere.
Some connections,
and they will get a letter and they're like, okay, internship's done. I think that the universities really need to come up with a conclusive plan with which they could testify whether the child has been attending an internship program or not, because if they're not learning, what's the purpose of sending them? I think it's more of a vacation anyways.
And on a lighter tone, so this program is, or internship program is for the people who are young people, right, aged between 18 to 25.
Yeah,
but I think they should also include people who are younger at heart, right? So now moving on.
No, but before we move on, very sorry, there's one more aspect which I wanted to touch upon, and that is that whenever we speak about internships, there's one other issue, and that is that whenever you will see an advertisement for job, now imagine they will always be like 5 years experience required, 10 years experience required. There's no certain advertisements that I have seen for myself as well when I started working that, okay, we're taking fresh graduates or probably somebody who's attended an internship program, because internship programs necessarily is for people who actually have done well in their internship program, and then from there onwards they will be offered a job. But we do not see that concept, so we need to bridge that gap.
That's very true, and I think things are changing, and in the days to come we will see a lot of positive changes around. But now moving on and unrolling what is today's going to topic will be, and we are going to talk talk about, like in the heart of the South Asia, where there's so many rich traditions, where so many rich sort of cultural heritage, they weave a tapestry of diversity. A silent killer is on the rise. And when I talk about a silent killer, I'm talking about the diabetes, because according to a Lancet magazine, which is a journal of the research, 33 million people with type 2 diabetes in Pakistan have been diagnosed, and that marks, according to the study, 26% of the adult population of Pakistan has this silent killer called diabetes. Now we're going to explore what is the link between the diabetes and a modern lifestyle, which is so hinged around the concept of the urbanization, and I think it's
foods.
Processed foods, obviously, because the life has become very fast, and then there are modern day stresses, triggers, then there's anxiety, there's depression. What is the link between them, if there is any link? And secondly, also we're going to talk about that how this concept of urbanization is also linked to the concept of the very limited open spaces. So how does that impact our health? Because movement or mobility in tackling the diabetes is important, but obviously we do have the experts in our studio who are going to shed some light and going to unpack and dissect the conversation around the diabetes, obesity, overweight, malnourishment, and obviously the role of hormones. So we are very glad that we have been joined by Dr. Orezi Jaffrey. He is a diabetes consultant at the Bedfordshire, UK, and he's also the CEO of the British Clinic at Islamabad. Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Sahab, and thank you so much for coming to our show.
Walaikum salam. Thank you so much for inviting me to your show.
It's wonderful to have you over here. You know, you look more younger than us anyways as well. I think so. Dr. Saab has been keeping well, alhamdulillah. And alongside him, ladies and gentlemen, we're very lucky that we've been joined by the medical officer at the British Clinic, Islamabad. She happens to be Dr. Amna Saeed Khan. Hello, assalamu alaikum. Good morning. How are you feeling today?
I'm feeling good. Thank you for having me here.
It's wonderful to have you. It's our pleasure to have you guys over here as well.
Absolutely. And let's kickstart a conversation. So, Dr. Saab, first of all, why is there a prevalence of diabetes, and how to tackle that problem, and particularly in Pakistan and South Asia, because Pakistan is topping the list when it comes to the most highest diabetic patient here?
Certainly, the magnitude of the problem is huge, and as you rightly said, 1 in 4 is diabetic, which is the highest in the world. And this is a matter of huge concern, because certainly in the longer run, it affects our organs and a lot of comorbidities, and it also shortens the lifespan, which is all preventable. So, as you said, what are the reasons for this? I think there are 3 main reasons, and then there are other few small reasons which we can go one by one. So first one is genetics. There's a strong link of genetics in type 1 and type 2 and other forms of diabetes. Let me tell you, there are at least, up till now, we have identified 100 different types of diabetes. Okay.
This is the first time that I'm hearing this.
Yes. And so that's genetics, but certainly genetics does not mean you will have the diabetes. If you do live a good lifestyle, there's a strong possibility that you can beat your genes. You must have heard the concept of beating the genes.
I've never heard that too.
So the second thing is your diet. So again, people ask me what's the good diet, and I tell them that there is no one size fit all, because my diet will be different from your diet. So our dietary requirements are different. So it is that we have to make a tailor-made approach. So that's why we have hired the best nutritionist in Pakistan, and as per the person's weight, height, as well as their lifestyle, we give them the dietary advice. But certainly, a rough guide will be the right proportion of the carbs, proteins, and unsaturated fats.
And we will talk about it further as well, but let's, kind of dig into, the other factors of why and how you can actually get diabetes in your life as well. So you've spoken about genetics, you've spoken about beating your genetics as well. So now moving on to the next step, what are the other factors? Is it our lifestyle?
So certainly our lifestyle. That's the third thing I would say, that we have to make sure that we eat healthy. And we keep our weight in check. We keep our, the common things which we can do, for which we don't even need to go to the clinic, is keep an eye on our weight and our waist. So if we can keep these 2 things in check, then certainly we are doing a lot good to ourselves.
Dr. Saab, the problem is, ever since that, that we've been growing up, in our households, we come from very middle class families, alhamdulillah, shukr alhamdulillah for everything. But there's most of the time it's salan roti, so you cannot go to your mom and be like, Mom, I need steaks today. That's something which does not happen in middle class houses, right?
See, the thing is that when we give advice to the patients, we don't tell them to stop salan roti. This is not how. the behavior change is very complex.
Oh, yes,
Patient will say yes to you, but they won't follow. So we rather give a advice which they can follow.
Wow.
So we give the advice that you cut down the portion of roti,
Okay.
and you keep having salan, dal, chicken, whatever you're having, you have that. But the portion of the roti which you will reduce, that will be replaced with something else.
And adding to this, contributing towards this discussion, so in the Hadith literature, you will also find that Holy Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam often used to go for the jo ki roti, right, or the barley wheat. And in Pakistan, we do have this tradition that we go towards the gandum ki roti or the wheat bread, right? And it's contributing a lot. I don't know. I mean, we have the experts in the studio who
There's a lot of maida mixed in it as well.
See, the thing is that you talked about maida and roti. The thing is there are two kind of carbs. One are the slow release carbs, which are the good carbs, and one are the fast release carbs. So the good carbs are like roti, as and Joe, you said, and the quick release carbs are all maida, sugar.
Right.
But the thing is that we have to avoid the short release, the quick release carbs. We have to take the long carbs, but even the long carbs have to be in a right portion. It doesn't mean that you are eating jo or roti and then you cross a certain portion.
Exactly.
So yes, if you are eating jo ki roti, I'm fine with that. If you're eating gandam ki roti, I'm fine with that. But we will tell you how much to eat.
Exactly.
And again, let's unpack this conversation more. And I always say that I really find this very contrasting combinations in Pakistan. So it's a country of paradoxes. So at one side, you will find that there's a lot of water scarcity, and at the other hand, you know, in the season of the monsoon, you will find there's so much flooding, right? And at the same time, in terms of the health, in terms of our physical health, Dr. Amna, we see that Pakistan has people who are have this malnourishment within them, right? So we are infected with this problem, and on the other hand, we have people who are very obese, right? How do we compare and contrast these two very contrasting sort of a situation, and let's analyze them at the intersection of the diabetes and obesity. Please
You
go
just
ahead.
our words as
See,
well.
the thing is that malnourishment is not just in the impoverished class. It's in the our wealthy people as well. Because the problem is we do not know what to eat. Right portion of macronutrients and right micronutrients. And matching it up with the right kind of exercise. That's what we need.
Right.
So it's the lack of education. We need to give it, and the problem with that is that every now and again, there's some conflicting, information comes. Like, I'll give you some example. That around 15, 17 years ago, this thing came, take protein diet. Well, and everybody went for that, but eventually we came to know that was not the right diet. Then a few 5, 7 years ago, another thing came that, keto diet. But again, keto diet is highly unsustainable. You can't eat keto all the time. What we need to eat is whatever we have been eating since childhood, but we just need to change the proportions in the food.
Exactly.
And Dr. Amna, now coming back to you, and so Dr. Saab mentioned a very important point, and I think that is the crux of how our modern lifestyle is hinged around the concept of the urbanization, and then the concept of the very limited sort of the open spaces. And as a woman, I think you will also understand that how much important it is to have the safe space to go out. So when we talk about having more mobility in our lives, right, it's not available, right? So what do you suggest as a doctor to women out there who are more prone to getting this type 2 diabetes? How do they improve their lifestyle?
Okay, so you're very right that we don't have a lot of safe spaces to go to because a very big part of your lifestyle is modifying your exercise pattern, at least walking 30 to 40 minutes a day, or even if you're not walking, you're going to the gym, you're running, you're hiking. So I get what you're trying to say, that women in Pakistan are not that safe and they don't have that safe environment. But to the people who have genetics in them, their parents, they have a family history, and they're more prone to diabetes, I would always say that try to do as much as you can to keep yourself safe.
Right.
Exactly, and that will certainly help you as well. But in addition to this, because we're speaking about women over here, I think one of the most pertinent question happens to be, with pregnant ladies as well. So do you think that they're more prone, and if they are, I don't think that there's a lot of awareness around women about this as well, and how they can actually kind of control it if there are chances while they are pregnant or post-pregnancy.
Definitely. So diabetes, which in medical terms we call gestational diabetes, gestation means when they're pregnant, the diabetes that they have in that should be monitored very, very closely.
Okay.
So the international guidelines say that women with diabetes their diabetes and their blood sugars need to be controlled very, very strictly, and it's it's always supposed to be within a range, and there are a lot of drugs that non-pregnant women can have but pregnant women can't.
True.
Right? So a pregnant woman who goes through diabetes has a very high chance of giving it to her fetus.
All right.
Right? So it's very important for us to build that awareness that women who are pregnant should go to their gynecologist and should go to their endocrinologist, and if they have a really high family history, or like they're very prone to having diabetes, they should go and they should get it checked, so we can save two people, not just one.
And Dr. Amna, when we talk about and exploring this concept of women empowerment, that too at the intersection of the diabetes, so and I think Shahzad might have also heard this a lot when we were growing up in our childhood. So our ammis or our mothers used to say that I'm working constantly, I'm constantly moving around the house. So when we are talking about curbing this silent killer, diabetes, do you think that lifestyle is contributing towards flourishing the silent killer, or is it not, right? Or they need to have some more mobility in their lifestyles in order to tackle that problem?
Okay, so when you talk about mothers, right?
Right,
Mothers
and constantly doing home
mothers
chores,
who are working. So mothers who are at home are also working, right? They're probably working a lot more. They're taking care of everyone. But what's important is, one, they should take care of their diet. They should take care of their exercise, of their physical activity, of their, when you talk about movement, definitely it's something that contributes, but stress is also a very big part of flourishing what you call
or
a
nurturing the
breeding
silent
ground
killer.
for the
Yeah.
silent
exactly.
killer, right?
So it's not just working women, it's also women at home who are very stressed.
Right.
So I think that is something that as a whole population we should be taking care of, that we should be taking care of our mothers, we should be taking care of pregnant women, we should be allowing women to have a safer space to enjoy and
I think
give their
everybody
own
needs to come
activity.
together to kind of protect them, make sure that,
Exactly.
there are friends around, who de-stress them as well, so all of these activities are important. Going out once in a while, going to the park, safe spaces, we've spoken about it, but I want to
Also
come back to...
obesity
yeah.
is
Sorry?
like,
Sure, go
also
ahead.
stress is a big what do you say, it's a big
Risk
reason
factor,
for
yes.
obesity.
Which is why,
Right?
this is something which I'm going to link with men's health as well. And, with women, obviously, we want to equally distribute, while we're talking about it as well. So, Dr. Orazai, I'm going to come back to you. If the pronunciation is correct, the name's a little difficult for the very first time that we've come across. But so what happens is that, with men, I think it's the same, because women are stressed because of their men being stressed as well, right? So now what happens is that, a lot of people might not even know how to do their stress management. And not just that, I think in addition to this, what happens is that, unfortunately, if you're unable to protect the women of the house, where Dr. Amna very rightfully said that, that we can protect 2 lives, unfortunately, we have seen that, that diabetes is more prevalent in children these days as well. I have a nephew, he's got diabetes. We figured it out when he was 4 years old or 5 years old. So is it, how do we go about it? Because with stresses, there's so much there. Unfortunately, there are Texas these days as well. So there's a lot of stress that you need to think about. So how do we go about it?
See, the thing is, thank you so much. I'm very happy you asked this question. I would like to touch on both
Sure.
points. First of all, the men and then the women.
Yeah.
The thing is that I have seen a common pattern that people who are very high achievers, CEOs, managing directors, top level, they have a very high prevalence of obesity. So they work very hard throughout the day, and then they are very stressed, and when they go home, they eat a lot of calories, a thing which is now known called comfort eating. What we mean is that we are trying to make ourselves happy.
Or binge eating, right?
I eat too many M&Ms every day.
We are trying to make ourselves
Watching some
happy
season and
to
constantly eating.
just heal ourselves for what has happened during the day.
And that's an escape usually, right?
Absolutely,
it's not
an
healing,
escape mechanism.
Yes.
So this is very important that, yes, it's good to be, working very hard, and but at the same time, you have to invest in your own health. And I think that's the best investment.
True.
Right.
So that's one thing. So this is a common pattern. People who work long hours, I have seen there's a direct link with stress and obesity.
All right.
The second one, with the woman, again, if there is some sort of stress or, depression,
Postpartum
anxiety,
depression as well, yes.
Certainly. That again leads to a very similar kind of phenomenon, that if they are not able to do what they want to do, like if they want to do exercise, walk, and there's limitation of safe spaces, what that will do is they will find their escape in comfort eating as well. And certainly slowly the weight will go up. And what the problem with weight is that when your weight goes up, you have to eat more to carry that weight. So the weight continues to goes up.
True.
Okay?
Okay.
So now coming back to the
Kids.
pregnant ladies, the pregnant, it is very important to control the blood sugars in pregnant ladies, and not just control it, but monitor it. So, monitoring every 2 weeks, every 1 week, literally in UK we do it every week, and then we keep adjusting the dose, because if the blood sugars are controlled, then the chances of diabetes passing on to the child is less.
And that's what our responsibility is as well. I think that, this responsibility truly lies, on the shoulders of the men over here in the country, because imagine that a lot of times I've seen that, the women of the house are pregnant, they are not taken to the clinic or to their oncologist on daily basis as well, or not if daily, weekly basis, and unfortunately such complications do occur. Now, since we have discussed that, what causes it, I know and I'm sure that there might be multiple other causes of diabetes as well. Let's move on towards the solutions and how people are actually talking, or we do see videos on social media these days that diabetes is reversible. You can do this, and you can do that, and there are these injections, and you just inject it, and there's this dam wala pani and whatnot. So all of those things. Obviously, we are speaking in perspective, keeping in view the medical science, the allopathy as well, and that's what we are sticking to. So we're not going anywhere else as well. So may it be, the spirituality behind it, or may it be kisi ke haath mein shifa, whatnot. Now, if we are to talk about it, I would want to kind of talk about people who go to the gym, take a lot of proteins, there's steroids involved in it as well, how much they are prone to it as well. And unfortunately, if sugar goes uncontrolled, how damaging can it be for anybody who's out there?
See, certainly, again, a very good question. I mean, high protein diet is again not good. Any calories which you will put in your body will be converted into fat.
Okay.
So it doesn't matter it's carbs, doesn't matter it's keto, doesn't matter it's protein, it will eventually be, if it is excess and it's not burned off, it will be converted into fat. So that's number one. So high protein diet is not the answer. Okay, that's number one thing. Now in this clinic, what we have taken and what is the right approach where the world is going is a patient-centered approach. So I think the treatment of diabetes is 3 pillars.
Okay.
Number one is detailed patient history.
Okay.
So in our clinic, we have allotted 30 minutes to every patient. I have told them, do not consume less than this time. Spend time with the patient. And in the first 15 minutes, I've told them that they need to just listen to the patient.
So you're only taking 15 patients a day, that's it?
Well, per doctor, that's how it is. If you, either we take the quality or the quantity.
Mashallah.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
So our motto is quality.
Wonderful.
So the way it works is that first is a detailed patient history. You need to know where exactly they are going wrong in their 24-hour day. So that's one thing. The second is patient-centered approach. So when you have found what is going wrong, you give the treatment according to that. A good physician is the one who treats it with the minimum number of medication.
True.
And knows when to increase the medication, when to stop, when to pause, when to go to the second.
Okay.
And the treatment of diabetes is not controlling blood sugar. That is not even 50% of the treatment, I would say. The treatment of diabetes is controlling blood sugar plus controlling weight plus preventing the end organ damage.
Right.
Okay, so you have to give the treatment that addresses all of three, not just controlling the blood sugars.
And Dr. Ramna, because of the paucity of the time and before we wrap up this segment, so since Shahzad also touched on the solution aspect of it, and I think it's very important that we talk about it. So I think a few years back there was a report in the UK in which they mentioned that there's a lot of obesity among the people there, and their lifestyle is obviously very different from ours, because you will find a lot of people who are walking out there, who are using their public transport, trams out there. So the mobility culture is very much vibrant as compared to our society, right? So because of this sedentary lifestyles of ours, the government has decided to tax these sweet beverages, higher tax them in order to curb this disease, right? Do you think so if we implement such sort of measures here, it can be a counter towards this breeding ground of the silent killer? Or secondly, what sort of dietary patterns do you think we need to change when we talk about curbing the silent killer?
Okay, so I think it's a very good
Pakistani
thing that
context,
there are taxes on soft drinks now. I think that it's kind of like a pandemic or an epidemic in Pakistan, because we're consuming a lot of sweets. And one thing that I'd want to say is that people think that a lot of patients come to us and they say that we stopped eating sweets. We don't like eating sweets. So why do we have diabetes?
Yeah.
So it's not about just the sweet things. So anything, any carb that you eat up, if you're eating roti, if you're eating rice, if you're eating anything, everything is turned into glucose in our body.
Right. And they're both favorite diets here, staple of Pakistan,
exactly,
right?
Exactly. So one
ताकत नहीं ना आती रोटी ना खाई हो ना ऐसे लगता है ताकत नहीं आई.
Yeah.
That's the concept, by the way. Yeah.
No, so again, how you said that, what are we supposed to do to like
alternative for that, right?
Exactly. So again, I would second Dr. Jafri on it, that it's not the same for every person, right? If we have an athlete and he is working out 10 to 12 hours a day, they're not going to be the same as me or you or anyone.
Of course.
True.
Right? So I think that everyone, there's a lot of science and there's a lot of medicine into all of this. So I think that everyone should actually consider their own.
So not one solution fits all.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think, this wraps it up as well, beautifully as well. Thank you so much, Dr. Amna.
Thank you
so much, Dr. Arzai, for being with us. For everybody who's out there, ladies and gentlemen, we are being raised in a culture where putter have some pronta, putter have some ballo wale pronte, have some desi kyo, have some fresh milk and whatnot, dairy and so many other products. It's good for a while, while you're growing up, while you're working, or while you have a lot of energy. There's a lot of saag and sarson ka ghee and all of these things. So please make sure that while you're growing up, because what happens is that while you're young, it's a blessing by Allah Almighty. But when you grow old, it needs to be a form of art from yourself in the first place, because you really need to protect your own self for you to be around your kids. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, we need to head out towards a short break. Every time, God forbid, there's one solution that I give everybody, and that is that please make sure that at least twice a year you get yourself checked up. If you have no problems, that's wonderful. And, going for a test system or going through a test system means that you will still not have any other issues as well. And if there are any, a stitch in time saves 9 as well. And plus, for all of those people who eat a lot, sedentary lifestyle, yani ek glass pani pakda do, ek glass khud nahi kuch utke karna, start doing that. I think it will help you a lot as well. That we're heading out towards a short break. Once you guys will come back, do we really need to be scared by artificial intelligence or not?
And that too at the intersection of the healthcare, we are going to explore that. So don't go anywhere. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning.
Welcome back, and before going on to the break, we were having a wonderful discussion hinged around the healthcare and diabetes and the rise of the obesity. And before we go into the break, Shahzad also mentioned the sort of conversation we would like to unpack and unroll in this segment, and which is hinged around and centered around the artificial intelligence. And I do remember when the concept of the ChatGPT or the artificial intelligence was discussed, there was a lot of skepticism among the people, and there was just fear among the people that AI is going to take over the world, and there was a very gloomy and doomy sort of a situation which is going to unroll, and the machines are going to control the human beings. But again, with the development of the new technology, new innovation, there are a lot of fears involved in it. But with the passage of time, we do see that how people and the human starts to learn to live with that technology. So we want to unpack our conversation centered around the artificial intelligence. We have to live with this technology, but how are we going to ethically abide by with the evolution of this new technology? How can we use it in the healthcare? How can we use it in the traffic system, in the safe spaces, and with the implementation of the research system, research and development? How can we make sure that there is a safe use of this technology and it does not fall into the wrong hands? So in order to uncover this conversation, we are very glad that we have been joined by a research analyst. He is a research scholar at the SmartSat with CRC, which is the Australia's largest space research center. We are very glad that we have been joined by Hassam Tahir. Assalamu alaikum, Hassam, and thank you so much for joining us.
Wa alaikum assalam. Thank you very much for inviting
Thank
me.
you so much for joining us. Wonderful to have you over here. And there's only one thing which I'm going to quote, and that is that Elon Musk said that you people have no idea how dangerous artificial intelligence can be. Please, can you shed some light on that?
Sure. So, as you said, that ethics is very important. So before COVID, online world was not normal for everyone. Similarly, after the advent of AI, now the new normal would be AI. So you have seen that AI is now integrated in everything, in the phones, in the laptops, in many critical use cases such as healthcare. There are new AI robots which would be carried out as a AI doctors for surgeries. Similarly, AI would be integrated at many different places. But definitely it is a convenient technology, but how we can rely on it, whether its output is accurate or not, that is a big question.
And that's what the
So what
question is, Hassan, that should we rely on AI too much? Because now a lot of people are talking about it. You know, imagine we've been talking, Hajar has always been talking about deep fakes out there as well. So we certainly are not sure whether what's happening, you know. So do you think that a lot of reliability needs to come, or do you think that we really need to be careful? And if we need to be careful, what are the tools that we can use to be a little bit more careful?
And contributing to this discussion, Hassan, we've seen that the pioneer of the artificial intelligence in the Google, he resigned and he said that there is no ethical framework out there, right? And that sparked a lot of conversation within the global community, within the elites, that we need to have a good and a vibrant sort of ethical values where we can, where the community can abide by to the artificial intelligence and the evolution of it, because if it falls into the corporate hand, we see that there is no end to that corporate greed or corporate lust, right? So what sort of conversations, as someone who is an expert in this field, who is a researcher, do you think we need to have when we are talking about developing an ethical framework, right, when it comes to artificial intelligence?
Coming towards the initial question that whether we should rely on AI too much or not, so my answer is no, because human feedback loop is very important in a specific framework or a technology or prognosis analysis. So if we talk about that, there should be some ethical framework. Yes, there should be ethical framework by two dimensions. So there is one dimension which is for general public and one dimension for technical people. Now AI is considered as a black box. So black box means that okay, AI is giving an output, but we do not know whether that output is correct or not. Similarly, relating this thing with deep fake and generative AI, someone's image can be taken and it could be generated as a fake video, etc. So we have to analyze that how it could be made more transparent and reliable. So one thing is, as I said, there are two dimensions. One is for general public, one is for technical people. Now if we talk about general public and general public of Pakistan, which is our concern, so we need to aware them. So, the initial scenario, initially we have to aware them, we have to convert we have to conduct robust workshops, that okay, whether there should be how AI should be used and how we can rely on its output. Because once a technology comes in a developed country, that their general audience or population does not rely on it blindly. They do follow some steps, ethical guidelines, workshops, and then they do rely on the specific technology.
And
As
Hassan, adding to this conversation, there were a lot of concerns, especially when we talk about the evolution of artificial intelligence, that how this technology is evolving, but there's a lot of racism involved within that, right? So we do have seen reports that whenever there were questions asked regarding it, or the evolution of the Barbie, so we've seen that Barbie was very Caucasian in nature, or her construct was like that, right? How can we curb this phenomena of racism within this emerging or evolving technology of the artificial intelligence, and make sure that it's a more inclusive society? Like you're talking about, we need to have more transparency, right? It's a very valid concern. So when we are talking about developing an ethical frame line, we need to curb the oppressive system of the racism within too, right? How can we do that?
So there are three main key objectives if we talk about how we can incorporate ethics in AI. Initially, we have to aware general audience. Secondly, an ethical framework with human feedback loop is very important, because human do need to analyze whether the output or input given to or taken from AI models are accurate or not. And third is to put an additional layer of transparency, which is also known as anti-checking system or anti-bracking system, which cross checks whether the output of AI is correct with the ethical guidelines. Either they are following the ethical guidelines. So, for example, I will give a short example. If we generate something from Chat GPT, we can analyze, and if we read a humanized text, so we can compare it that there are some patterns which are generated by AI. So how to check those patterns, how a general audience can check those patterns, how ethical framework can be incorporated in those patterns is very crucial. So these are the steps which should be followed to make AI more ethical, more transparent, more reliable, because we have to incorporate this technology in everything from now on. Till 2030, there is a big vision of whole world, but definitely by incorporation of this technology, we have seen many issues in the past. In US, there was a research conducted that if we rely on AI too much in healthcare sector, then we can lose 10% of lives only in California. Similarly, in there was a crash, a financial crash of $1 trillion in the US as well, which was related to AI. They were for depending much on AI, and then at the end they lost a lot of money, which was directly contributing towards the economy of that whole state.
Assam,
So
which is
if
why,
we now
in the first place, I asked you this question as well, whether how, an ordinary person like me, like Hajra, can actually check whether AI has been playing a role, and how, what tools do we have at our hands to kind of know that, okay, there might be a glitch, there might be a problem, because we do know, in institutions we have standard operating procedures, but with artificial intelligence, so far, the discussion is that, there needs to be morals and ethics involved in it, but we do not see any SOPs out there.
exactly. So there are two to three things. Initially, one most important thing is how we can take appropriate trainings. So for general audience, awareness and trainings, workshops is the most important thing which they can follow, and a specific policymaker should ensure that before uh, i- initiating a specific technology, those frameworks should be given to the general audience. So, for example, if you take a flight, there is a checkbook, safety book, which we read, and we make sure that okay, we should follow those things in order to make our flight safe. Similarly, the such kind of ethical and transparent workshops and guidelines should be released and should be incorporated through the print media, through the general media, that how AI is beneficial at one point and how AI can be a big scam as well.
So how do we know
So
as
by
of now that that we're in conversation with Assam Tahir, and that it's not an artificially intelligence or created by AI, because I've seen multiple videos on the internet where people have tried to create their own videos, they're talking back to people as well, and it just looks as if, it's a natural video. So how do we know that whatever we're asking you is not answered by artificial intelligence itself? That's where it scares us, right?
exactly. So we have to incorporate a human feedback loop. So once you are checking a video, specific video, then there should be some checkpoints whether this video is fake or not. Now, how you will get those checkpoints? By extensive trainings, awareness and guidance, workshops. Other than that, I do not think so that us human can beat that technology without a general, not a technical training. That is my point, which should be incorporated in general audience thoroughly.
Yeah, which is why now imagine that you've spoken about banks, you've spoken about financial crisis, you've spoken about how the in medicine industry will be using artificial intelligence and how it can be fatal for 10% of the lives only in California. Now imagine that there will be traffic systems which will be run by artificial intelligence, may it be in the sky or may it be on the roads. Would you suggest that we really need to kind of move on towards AI with 100% dependency? Or obviously, we have gone through this question again and again, but how do you think that probably growing countries like Pakistan can actually invest a lot in these technologies and making sure that they are safer for people? Because we do want efficient technologies to be working for people, but what is the way for growing countries or growing economies like Pakistan?
So there should be a threshold setting that how much we should rely on AI. So in standard practices and developed countries, they have started relying on AI not 100% but 80%. So they have started out the technology for a robust analysis, as we were talking initially about diabetes and those things. And one of the doctors were saying that they do focus on quality rather than quantity. Now with the advent of AI, quality is also improved, quantity is also improved in directly proportion. But human feedback loop is very important. So there should be two dimensional framework. Initially, AI should be incorporated, for example, in intelligent traffic monitoring system. So AI would be analyzing the traffic, and it would operating the signals, whether it should be red, green, yellow, etc. But at the back end, there should be real time monitoring of human feedback loop, which is a standard practice which has been developed in 2023 and now has been incorporated in whole of the AI
Right,
systems, which is
right,
also known
right.
as feedback
Thank you
loop.
so much, Assam, for having this insightful discussion. And I think healthy sort of skepticism is always important when we are talking about having a more complex and nuanced sort of a discussion, and that too centered around the AI. Thank you so much for joining us and for having this wonderful discussion. And now we will move around, Dr. Saab, very quickly because we are really short on time. You were discussing about the third pillar of how we can control the diabetes within 2 sentences. Please go ahead.
So as I said, the third pillar is patient education. So once you have taken the history, you have given the patient-centered approach. The third is educating your patient.
Okay.
The educating your patient is that not just the diet and lifestyle, but also to tell them how to monitor their diabetes.
Right.
What are the numbers they should be targeting? And if it exceeds a certain number, what to do?
Right.
When to increase the dose, when to decrease the dose, when to pause the medication, and when to come back to us.
Right, right.
So this education is very important. So these are the 3 pillars.
Right. And thank you so much, Dr. Jafri. Thank you so much, Dr. Amna, for having this very insightful discussion centered around the diabetes. And I was reading somewhere that Imam Ali used to have the dry bread, and now it's been proven that one of the best bread to have in the globe is the whole wheat bread, right? And there was a wisdom and reason behind it. And with that, we will say you goodbye. Allah Hafiz. Until next time.
It's a good morning. Have a great day. Allah Hafiz. Thank you so much.